Welcome to this first installment of Pocket Change. In this video, I'm going to give you a little bit about my change model very quickly, just a short overview. We're going to go in depth on each step over the next weeks and months. And I'm going to give you a practical tool, something that you can take along with you and use immediately. In fact, you'll be able to use it in this video if you like. So buckle up, and that's what we're going to get done here in the next few minutes. So my model is a to-do list, yeah, and it's based on a lot of other really good to-do lists. But is a to-do list enough? Isn't change sort of difficult and unpredictable and chaotic, and how can we have just a to-do list to get us through? Well, a to-do list does give you a nice anchor. And speaking of anchoring, you can also begin with the end in mind, to go back to Stephen Covey's work. Begin with the end in mind. Where do we want to end up, and how are we going to get there? So the first part of my model, just like the old unfreeze, as if the organization is an ice cube. Unfreeze, move, like the water is flowing, and then refreeze into a different situation. It also has sort of 3 stages to it. The analog to unfreeze is determining what is the need for change, and then a vision, which is just the big goal. Yeah, looking at business dynamics. What are you going to, what real effect will this have on the business? And looking at people dynamics. This is very often overlooked. And there are ways to really engage with what are the people going to be doing? What are they going to be thinking? How can we plan for that? And then, of course, crafting the implementation plan. Now, once you've got all this, then you can put it out there. You can communicate the vision, and that needs to be done very structurally. I think probably communication is the one area where you think, now we've communicated as much as we need to, and people give you the feedback, you should have communicated more. It's like, really? Okay, so communicating the vision, remapping people dynamics, because change is it's not called, I call it a wicked problem. And a wicked problem is a thing. You can look it up on Wikipedia. A wicked problem is a problem that you don't really know what the real problem is until you apply a solution. And then the real problem starts to manifest itself. Oh dear. So remapping the people dynamics, maybe even remapping the business dynamics in that case, and making sure that we are on the right path, and that our organization is also learning as we go. And there are all kinds of really cool techniques to do this that I will share with you. And then last of all, anchoring and convergence. Yeah, so we've got to anchor this someplace. We've got to measure it. We've got to anchor it. We've got to make sure that it has a convergence with our strategy and with our culture. Don't forget that. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. So don't let your change be something way outside the strategy and the culture of your organization, because it just might get eaten. And of course, then there's this little bit of this aspect of refreezing there. We're getting the right KPIs. This is where we want to be, and these are the things we want to have. And then remeasuring. Yeah. So where is the organization now? We've moved from someplace and we want to remeasure. So that's a short overview of my model, which we will go deeper into in the coming time. Now, I promised you a practical tool that you could actually fill in as we're going along. So let's do that. It's called DICCE. If you spell dice with 2 C's, you'll see what I mean. The first one is duration. How long is this going to be? How long do you estimate this change will be? And we usually underestimate this by a lot. So take what you probably think it's going to be and multiply by 2 or 3. Probably be closer. That's my experience. But let's say you've got it right. Yeah. And give yourself a 1. Lower scores are better. Give yourself a 1 if it's going to be like 0 to 2 months. 0 to 2 months. Okay. Give yourself a 2 if it's going to be 2 to 4 months. If it's going to be 4 to 6 months, give yourself a 3. And if it's going to be above 8 months, if you're saying, look, it's going to be all of next year, then give yourself a 4. That's going to be a big one. For our experiment here, let's say that you think it's going to be about 6 months, so we'll give it a 3. The second aspect of this model is team performance integrity. How much integrity does your team have? I'm not talking about if they're honest, but have you worked together? Have you done these kinds of projects together? How well does the team work as a team? How new is the team to the industry? Well, we've got one old guy over here and he knows all about the industry, but the rest of us are, just finished our MBA or something like that. The time that you've been in the industry and you've seen the cycles also matters. But if you've got a well-worn, lovely old walnut team that's been there and done that and got the t-shirt, works well together, give yourself a 1. If you've got a team that is just come together, there's been a merger or an acquisition, somebody was flown in from corporate, you've got a couple of new people, there are a couple positions there that you haven't been able to recruit the right people, so somebody else is covering off on that. Oof. Now, give yourself a 4 or something in between those two extremes. The first C is commitment, senior management or executive level management commitment. How committed are these people to this change? And so, and they're usually the team that we're talking about, the team integrity that we're talking about. So let's say this team, they work well together. There's a little bit of chaos, so we'll give that a 2. But when we get down to their commitment to this thing, their things can get pretty varied. A 1 is we're ready to communicate the vision. We're all on the same page. It's aligned with the strategy. It's aligned with the culture. We've done something like this before. We're feeling really good about it, and we're very committed. That's a 1. If, on the other hand, people are sort of looking around and saying, well, it's actually her idea, or it's the CEO's idea, or, I don't think we should do this, and there's lots of sort of sucking of teeth and hemming and hawing, there's lots of reluctance, then, okay, then you're going to have a 4 or something in between. Let's say this team is they're ready to go. They're quite committed. Let's give them a 2. The other C is the commitment of local management. So let's say you're doing this for a plant, yeah, and so we're thinking of the plant management team. We're thinking of supervisors. We're thinking of team leaders. And you say, well, is it the commitment of every? I usually go with upper management because that's where change needs to start. Change is a top-down thing. If you're going to do it bottom up, you're going to get your feelings hurt. So I would look at that local team and maybe just the supervisors and team leaders right under that team. How committed are they? And you might say, well, they're very committed, and then you would give a 1. Maybe it was their idea, and they've been involved since the beginning. That would be a 1. If they're very reluctant, and this is something that's just sort of come down from corporate and we're not really sure about it, and oh dear, here they come again, then you're a 4, or maybe something in between. Well, let's say this fictitious team is a 4. They're not ready for this at all. And the last is the letter E in DICCE, and that's how much extra effort this is going to cost. Well, is it going to be 0 to 10%? Is it going to be 10 to 20%? Is it going to be, 20 to 30%? Or is it going to be 40% or more? Well, that would be a 1, 2, and 3, and 4. Now, let's imagine that it's going to take about 20% more effort. Yeah. And extra effort is how much extra time are you going to have to be messing around with this? And think about, that local team. How many more meetings will they need to have? How much distraction will this be? How much time will those team leaders and supervisors start to demand from their teams to do extra stuff or work a little later or any of these kinds of things? So let's say it's going to be about 20% more work. And you may need to also factor that into the costs of the change. So we've got a DICE calculation here where the D is a duration of 6 months, so that's a 3. We've got pretty good team integrity, so that's a 2. People are pretty committed at the executive or senior level, that's a 2. People at the local level are not on board with this at all. At least that's our feeling. And so that's a 4. And it's going to take probably 20% extra effort to get this done. Well, that would also be then a 2. And if you add all those up, you get a 13. But that's not right, because you actually have to put this in a big, ugly formula. And that big, ugly formula looks like this. Yes. Okay. So let's fill this in. The D is going to be a 3. The 2 for team performance integrity is multiplied by 2. The 2 of senior management commitment is also multiplied by 2. And added to that is the 4, the reluctance of local management, and the 2 of the additional 20% additional effort that we expect this will require. When you put all of those together, well, you get something more like 17. Well, is 17 good or bad or ugly? Well, if you look at this chart, which is a chart of quite a bit of research into a number of different change initiatives, well, you get an idea. If you look on the left, you see that these are the changes that were very successful. These are the scores of about 7 to 14. Remember, lower is better. So these are teams that upper management is committed, lower management or local management is committed. The duration isn't too long. We've done it before. It's not going to cost us a whole lot of extra effort to get it done, and so the chances of success are really, really high. And then you see it start to drop off. And our score here was a 17. And that's getting right over to the right side of this model, where you think, have we been a little too loose in our calculations? Have we been over optimistic? In other words, are we too low? In other words, if this thing goes wrong, could it become a 22 or a 23 overnight? Well, then we need to look at it again and see what hatches do we need to batten down before starting with this. Or you could say, no, we've been quite conservative in our calculation. It's a 17 now. It could just as easily be a 16. And so, it's more toward that side. Well, at least you're having the right conversation about the right things. And in this case of a 17, that's what I would do with, a team that was in this kind of situation. So if you've got a change coming up and you've got a DICE score that you're not completely satisfied with, contact me and let's see what we can come up with together. And that's it for this first installment of Pocket Change.